I think we'll get started. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Glad to have you guys on this call. We wanted to bring everyone in and have our first 2023 chapter advisor spring kickoff. We've never done a kickoff in the spring semester with all of you. We've always just done our trainings in August. But we thought this would be a good time to get all of our advisors together right before the semester starts and kind of regroup, go over a few things and kind of kick off everything in the right direction. So appreciate you guys all spending an hour with us tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to turn everything over to Matt Humberger, who's going to kind of start us off. So Matt, all you.
For a great low rate.
All right. I'm going to share my screen here in a second. See here. Sure this works. Perfect. All right. Can y'all see like a PowerPoint?
Yep.
We see your back screen, Matt.
Okay. Let's nope, that's still the way. We'll just go like
display settings.
We'll go like this. Okay. So first of all, obviously, like Logan said, we're really glad that y'all could take a few minutes to hang out with us tonight. I know many of you obviously get to work closely with your supervisor on a pretty regular basis, but people like Gordy and myself and Tabitha and a few others, we don't get as much interaction with everyone. And so we just wanted to be able to spend a little time talking about Alpha Sigma Phi, talking about the importance of the role that you all are playing as chapter advisors, and have a nice little kind of kickoff to the spring semester into 2023. So, you know, real briefly, Gordy and I are going to talk a little bit about the state of Alpha Sig and where we are organizationally. Obviously, you know, all of our advisors represent a very wide variety of folks, right? So some are members, some are not, some are men, some are women. You all come from all different walks of life, right? So your knowledge of Alpha Sigma Phi is probably varied, especially depending on how long you've been an advisor. So hopefully this can be somewhat informative, but Gordy and I are also going to kind of talk a little bit about, as we move forward into the spring, some organizational priorities. So you'll see here, you know, we'll briefly go over some fraternity, you know, specifics in terms of chapter counts, some priorities. We'll talk about recruitment and finances, the chapter council a little bit, and then we'll give a high-level overview of the foundation and Clevin, which is our housing real estate entity. So first, just for folks that maybe aren't aware, Alpha Sigma Phi currently, as we go into the spring semester, is on, we're actively on 183 campuses. So that includes all of our chapters and provisional chapters. Of those 183, 152 are chapters, 27 are provisional chapters. So many of you are an advisor for a provisional chapter. The old terminology for that was a colony. So those are newer chapters of Alpha Sigma Phi that haven't quite gotten to a point where they're a chartered chapter yet, but are working towards that. And I know obviously our advisors that are working with those provisional chapters are helping to get to a point where they charter. And then this spring, we have 5 new expansion projects. And so I've listed them there. I believe a couple of these places, we already have an advisor in place and we welcome them to this, and hopefully a neat opportunity to kind of learn more about the fraternity as well. But University of Georgia is one of our expansions. We actually have an informational session this evening for that expansion. Probably, hopefully 25, 35 guys will be on that. So we're well on our way to being successful there. Arkansas Tech, Sacramento State out in obviously California, Sam Houston State just north of Houston, and then University of California, Irvine is our 5th expansion. So in total, all those put together, 183 groups. Gordy, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the organizational priorities?
Yes. So first, welcome everyone. Gordy Heminger, the president and CEO for Alpha Sigma Phi. Thrilled to be here for a little bit and to talk with all of you. In terms of organizational priorities, the first is brotherhood. Now, some of you are likely familiar with our chapter success pyramid, which essentially are 5 things that we think if every chapter does, there'll be a high-performing, successful chapter, and the members will have a great experience. And the very first rung of that pyramid is brotherhood. If a chapter's not having a close brotherhood, a meaningful brotherhood where men are being bettered and it's welcoming and inclusive for all in the community, then the chapter's not going to really be able to achieve a whole lot. So that is the bottom, most important part of our chapter success pyramid, and a spring chapter calendar. What we found is our chapters struggle to plan. If they don't plan, they don't have meaningful events. They don't have meaningful events. They don't have a close brotherhood. We did a membership survey last semester of new members, and the two biggest areas that new members cited in terms of their dissatisfaction with the Alpha Sigma Phi experience, it was that they said their chapter did not have a robust calendar of activities, and there were inadequate non-alcoholic brotherhood events. So this is where you all come in as advisors, coaching the chapters on having a robust, purposeful, meaningful calendar with plenty of activities that do not involve alcohol. So that's number one. Number two, recruitment. So the second part of the pyramid. If we're not recruiting new members, the chapter is not going to thrive and prosper. So that would be buying into the Alpha Sigma Phi recruitment philosophy. So this is where you come into play as advisors, coaching the Prudential Board, coaching the growth VP of growth on our philosophy, which really boils down to making things more informal, less formal, smaller events versus larger events, using our TBTM or To Better the Man scholarship as a names list driver, taking advantage of Chapter Builder, the free resource we provide to all chapters, valued at $70,000. Our Fired Up certification training, having the members be certified on best practices for recruitment. This is another investment we've made to help our chapters by Fired Up productions. Using meaningful incentives. So we reward members, reward chapters and teams for doing very well with recruitment and bringing new members in. And then lastly, having a team approach. Everybody's involved with recruitment, not just the VP of growth. And so you come into play teaching that philosophy, and also working with the chapter to develop a spring recruitment plan. And then later this term, you'll be developing a summer and fall recruitment plan. Number three would be finances and operations. So we should be working with our chapters to have a spring budget. What we've found is chapters that budget and bill collect. And the chapters who struggle collecting dues don't bill until mid-semester, and they don't have a budget. So working to ensure all of our chapters have a budget and they're billing and collecting appropriately. Accountability would be number four, and that would be our standards board, which is the educational, non-punitive accountability board within the fraternity, and having member standards. To extend an invitation to join of a potential member, and having standards of our brothers. And so that makes accountability easy when there's agreed upon shared standards. And so if we could accomplish anything this semester, I would hope we'd work with our chapters to have stronger brotherhoods, grow the chapter with more members, be solvent financially, and have standards and hold the membership accountable to those standards. So Matt.
Excellent. So to kind of dive in deeper on a couple of those items that Gordy just shared, for again, some of you, this might be somewhat familiar. For others, this would be brand new information. Here's a kind of a breakdown of our recruitment successes as an organization over the course of the last several years. Now, many of you probably are aware, Alpha Sigma Phi has grown quite a bit over the last, 15 or so years. In 2009, we had about 61 chapters, and we have obviously the 183 today. And so with that, you'll be able to see that our recruitment numbers, really started to elevate quite a bit in 2012 and 2013, and 2016 through 2019. Really, in the fall and the spring, you'll see those numbers, between 2,000 to 2,200 and 1,200 to 1,400 in the spring. The key thing here is the average per chapter, per campus. And so while we're really happy and excited that this past fall we had 1,800 men join, when we're looking historically organizationally, with the exception of fall of 2020 and spring of 21, obviously with the pandemic and campuses looking very different, we're on a little bit of a decline in terms of average recruitment numbers for our chapters around the country. So we really want to try to have this be a priority by focusing on what Gordy's talking about in terms of that recruitment philosophy. And if you all have questions, more about that, there's really easy one-pagers that kind of go over everything Gordy just talked about there as it relates to recruitment. But we want to try to get, that fall number back to a healthy 12 to 14, 13, 14 kind of, and for the spring, ideally more toward the 8 to 9. per campus, ideally. And so this gives a good framework of kind of where we've been and certainly kind of where we are now.
So from a chapter finances standpoint, some data points, 95% of the fall installment was collected. There's 18 chapters that are still behind. And so this would be half of the educational programming bill and half of the health and safety bill. So 18 chapters still owe money. 12 of the 18 have paid chapter advisors. So this is really important. If you're one of those chapter advisors whose chapter is behind, that's okay. Things happen. But what we need to do is we need to work with the chapter and the VP of Finance and the president to get on a payment plan so that we can get caught up. Because once we dig a hole, it's harder to get out of that hole. So it's better to nip this in the bud, be only one semester behind versus continuing to fall further and further behind. October 15th, this is past due from last academic year. So we have about 25 chapters who last academic year, they didn't pay all their bills. So we're trying to get them caught up with an installment plan. And we have 25 chapters who are behind on that installment plan. Again, 19 of the 25, I'm a paid advisor. This goes to, we will work with all of our chapters and we'll work with you, but we just need communication and we need to get on a payment plan and we need the chapters actually, follow through on that payment plan. We think in many of these cases, it becomes the chapters are not billing the right amount at the right time. If you're billing the right amount prior to a semester starting, notifying parents of what is owed of each member, and then holding members accountable when they don't pay, we believe members will pay. We believe the chapters who have issues, they don't bill the right amount, they bill too less, they don't bill before semester starts, they don't notify parents, and they don't hold members accountable. That's where you all can come in to be helpful with that. November 15th, we had the new member bill. This is what all the new members pay, $500. Half of it's due November 15th. About 62% of it's been collected, which is tremendous. But there are 33 chapters not at the halfway point. And the halfway point is where we want to be. 26 of those 30 have paid advisors. So if you look, this is one of the key things you all can be so helpful to us with is sitting down, zooming in with the VP of Finance and saying, okay, we're behind on this, behind on that. Things happen. Let's work together. Let's get a realistic payment plan and let's get this debt resolved so we're not heading into next year with even more debt. Let's start next year with a clean slate, no debt. So some upcoming due dates, really important. January 15th, the spring bill is due, $100 a member. February, the second half of the fall new members bill is due. March, the first half of the spring new member bill is due. And then in June, the second half of the spring new member bill is due, along with any ticket packages purchased for Elevate, which is our summer leadership program. So June is always the toughest one because the students are out of school, so it's a little harder. So if we're behind heading into June, we're going to be in a problem. So it's so important to get caught up before the school year ends so we can stay caught up in June versus trying to dig ourselves out of a hole. And then continuing on from a chapter council standpoint, which is a priority. Chapter council is the advisory team that's helping all of you, should make your jobs easier. So for example, our first tier focus on a chapter council is to have a volunteer in each of these three roles: a financial advisor, a growth advisor, and a retention advisor. And these individuals can be a member, not a member. They can live in close proximity to campus, not. Logan and his team will help you identify people. They'll provide you lists of alumni in the area. The undergraduate should be able to help you by identifying faculty members or staff members that they like on campus. But these people will help you because, for example, the financial advisor, this is a person who then could meet with the VP of Finance and help them with budgeting and billing and collecting, so you don't have to do that. The growth advisor could be sitting down with the VP of Growth and talking about our recruitment philosophy and coaching them on building teams and creating incentives and having a recruitment plan and a calendar of events. Same thing with the retention advisor. These men and women in these volunteer roles will make your job easier. So working with your supervisor and Logan and his team to build this chapter council out will be a huge added boost to you. Now, Once we get those 3 positions filled, then we want to focus on these other 6 positions, which would be membership enrichment, ritual and traditions, service and philanthropy, standards, communication, and a faculty advisor. But the first tier is our top priority. So we want to get those 3 positions filled. We want to get them filled as soon as possible in the spring semester, and then we'll move on to tier number 2. Matt.
So finally, from a fraternity standpoint, we just wanted to share, obviously, at this point, this, in terms of chapter advisors that we have around the country, all but a few are secured. There's a few vacancies that we have that we wanted to at least share. And so if you know anyone who may live in the geographical vicinity of any of these campuses, please let your supervisor know, and or myself. We'd be more than happy to reach out, and talk. I know several advisors have referred their friends that live in different parts of the country and are now advisors as well. And so certainly welcome. You all know the job. You've done a great job of working with our chapters. So we would encourage any referrals that you may have as it relates to these campuses. Shifting gears, we'll talk briefly about the foundation, a few things just so folks are aware of. Gordy?
Yep. So we're just coming out of our Founders Day Challenge, which is our primary fundraising vehicle. It's focused around our Founders Day, which is December 6th. Updated totals, we've raised about $570,000 this year, which puts us a notch higher than last year. And I know many of you on this training made some gift last year. So we really appreciate that and appreciate your investment in the fraternity. What I would say is that it is so helpful when we can go out to alumni who have a tremendous capacity to give, and we can say all of our advisors have made some gift. All of our undergraduates have made some gift. And so that's going to be a real focus in 2023 is it doesn't matter the amount of the gift. It's just 100% participation because it's so helpful, and it shows to the folks who have capacity to do 6- and 7-figure gifts that the people most involved at the ground level realize what a tremendous experience is being had and what a good investment it is to give back to Alpha Sigma Phi. So we thank all of you who did in 2022. We hope those who didn't in 2022 will consider making a gift at some point in 2023 and encouraging your chapter council to do that and encouraging the undergraduates to become Phi Society members, $20 a member to join our Phi Society. Chapter endowments, every chapter, provisional chapter, they have a chapter endowment. And alumni can give to this endowment, parents can give to this endowment, the undergraduates can give to this endowment. And money in the endowment can be used to cover the educational programming fee. So for example, that $100 a member bill that was due in September, this endowment could cover that. And so that's a good way for alumni parents to invest in their sons' fraternity experience and get a tax benefit for it. It can be used to cover expenses to go to Elevate, booking a plane ticket, gas, the registration, the ticket cost for Elevate. You can use it as an advisor if you want to host a chapter retreat. Money in the endowment can be used for that. It could be used to give scholarships, highest GPA, most improved GPA, do the TBTM scholarship, which is part of our recruitment philosophy. So if you have any questions about any of the endowments, especially the ones related to your chapter, Sam Harris, whose email is right there, he is a staff member. He's our director of the foundation. He's the one you can reach out to. He'll be able to answer questions for you. If you have questions about how the endowment can be grown, he can work with you on a plan for that. But this is a great resource to help. A lot of parents want to give to their son's fraternity experience. So instead of just writing a check that goes to chapter dues, they can write a check that goes to the chapter endowment and get some tax benefit for it as well. So that is our foundation. But most importantly, thanks to all of you who gave in 2022.
And then lastly, just a little bit more information about Clevin, which is another auxiliary entity of Alpha Sigma Phi, formed in 2016. As I alluded to at the beginning, with Alpha Sigma Phi's rapid growth over the last 14 years came with obviously the growth, some growing pains, and the realization that from a housing standpoint, there was a lot that we needed to do and that we could do to help provide better living experiences for our members. And so in 2016, we created this housing entity with the intent to provide a shared living experience and environment for our brothers, with the ultimate goal of strengthening the brotherhood. That is why Cleven exists. That's the goal that Cleven has. To date, 6.5 or so years in, there's about 50 owned and managed properties in Cleven's portfolio, representing about 1,200 of our undergraduate brothers, ranging from Miami, Florida to Pullman, Washington to University of New Hampshire, all over the country. And so there's a staff that's associated with working with these groups. I've indicated the director's name and information below, Nick Miller. Some of you may know Nick. If you have questions about Cleven, or your chapter is interested in potentially looking to acquire housing, whether it be owning or managing a leased property, Cleven is open to that and interested in that. Again, that's why they exist. So Nick's name and contact information is included to be considered for a Cleven property. Some good reminders for chapters that Cleven will look at is, what is the recruitment success? Obviously, for us to invest in housing for a chapter, we want to make sure that they're going to be able to fill the beds and fill the house year after year. And so successful recruitment's certainly one of the main criteria that we'll look at. Financial success of the organization, as you all know, I mean, when you add a house to the equation for a chapter, that becomes even with Cleven managing it and handling all of the the financial aspects, there's still a lot more that goes into operating fraternity when there's a property involved. So having good financial success as a chapter, not having debt, is certainly something else we'll look at. And then having strong operational success. So a chapter that's not necessarily winning a gold cup, but certainly performing well, recruiting well, strong brotherhood, all the things that Gordy mentioned in terms of organizational priorities at the beginning of this portion. That's really what we'll look at to make decisions in terms of who might be added to Cleven's portfolio. But we're always looking to grow. We want to provide more housing to our members and our chapters that aren't housed, when feasible. So if any questions you all have, you can certainly let your supervisor know or Nick know, and we would be happy to assist. I will go back to Gordy.
All right. Well, so to wrap things up, let me just once again say thank you. Well, I recognize that you're, getting paid and quite frankly, a modest stipend. The reality is the effort you're putting in, the work that you're doing, the mentoring you're providing, the guidance you're offering, the advisement you're doing is just making a huge impact. We know on our chapter success pyramid, I talked about brotherhood and recruitment, 1 and 2. 3 and 4 is shared vision and accountability. And the top of the pyramid is a good advisor. And we know that good advisors make a world of difference. Our chapters with good advisors are stronger, they're healthier, they're safer. The members have a better experience. The members have a role model that they can look up to. And so thank you to all of you for the role you're playing in making the chapter experience, the membership experience, so meaningful and impactful for nearly 9,000 undergraduate men across North America. The priorities for the spring: brotherhood, growth, and finances. Finances isn't, brotherhood and growth go to the experience. Finances go to the reality. This is a business. And one of the ways we're able to do this chapter advisor program, one of the reasons we're able to offer our Elevate program this summer at a lower cost than any other summer fraternity convention or leadership conference, is because of membership dues. And so those are our 3 priorities for the spring. I appreciate everything each and every one of you are going to do to help the chapters achieve their goals in those 3 areas and more, to help Alpha Sigma Phi achieve its goals in those 3 areas and more. And my email is on the website. Your supervisor, Logan, they all have it. At any point, any of you are welcome to email me, to call me. My direct line's on the website. And I'm happy to talk with any of you, answer any questions that you have. You got a great team helping you out in terms of, Logan, Kevin, LT, Greg, great team, Jeremy, Tabitha. But I'm happy to be a resource as well. And I appreciate everything that all of you are doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gordy. Before I move on, does anyone have any questions for Matt or Gordy? And Brandon, I did see your question. So as far as the membership enrichment advisor goes, we're not saying that any of these tier 2 positions are not important. We just see that the foundation of a chapter council should start with finance, growth and retention, and we can build from there. But if you're a brand new advisor and you're trying to build your council, we just see those three as a must need before you start moving on. Cool. So before we go into our breakout rooms, I wanted to just go over a few housekeeping items, a few reminders before we let you guys off into your specific sections. I think Matt went over it as far as finances, or Gordy did. The spring bill is due January 15th. So that is this Sunday. I think we've only gotten about 11, maybe 12, 13 groups that have actually paid that so far. So if you're wondering if your group has paid off the spring bill, probably not. So it would be a good time to check in with your president and VP of finance to see where they're at with that. And if they need to work on a payment plan, that you guys can reach out to your supervisor, and we can work on some sort of payment plan for the group to get them on course. Elevate ticket packages. I know you guys have received a bunch of emails about getting those in. Those are due January 15th as well. We just need to know the number and a few names that have the chapter has reached out to, a few names of people that have shown interest to go to Elevate. There is no payment due on the 15th. Just need to know names. We will be doing a call day on Friday. So if you don't want us to be annoying you and the president come Friday afternoon, we would love to see some packages come in over the next few days. So if you have any questions, reach out to your supervisor about that. Officer trainings are going to resume February 8th and 9th. So I know I've been updating a few of my advisors where their officer stands as far as hours completed. They need to complete at least 5 hours. So if you need an update of the 5 officers that need to complete their trainings, reach out to your supervisor. We can provide an update of how many more hours they need to complete. And you guys will start to receive some emails about those upcoming trainings February 8th and 9th. Another thing with Elevate, and I probably should have mentioned this right after, we're going to do something new where we're going to do an Elevate internship program. This is going to be for 2 undergraduates that want to see what it's like to be on staff. And we're going to have them be interns with us at Elevate for that weekend. We're going to pay for their flight to get there. We'll pay for their room, food, everything that we are doing, they are going to be a part of. More information is on the application. I'm going to turn to Tabitha in a bit to explain that application. But this is only for undergraduates that will continue to be an undergraduate going into next year. And they need to be recommended by either yourselves, an alumnus, or a campus advisor. So we don't just want random undergraduates that are playing a joke on us to apply to be an intern with us for that weekend. We want you guys to be the ones to recommend them to HQ. So Tabitha, could you go over as far as how to apply for that?
Yep, and I apologize. I have a very, very angry dog behind me that is ready for me to go home with her. So if you hear, I have fed her at least 12 greenies in the past minute. I just put the link in the chat box. So it is a very quick WooFoo form, basic information. It explains the commitment of the days that they would need to be there. And as Logan said, we would love for you to fill it out as an advisor, an alumnus fill it out, a chapter council member fill it out, or a fraternity sorority advisor fill it out. So someone that says, I know this human, they're a good human, I can vouch for them. And so the commitment is on there, and we're actually looking for 2 interns, as Logan said. One will focus on communications, so taking videos, taking pictures, running our mobile app, running bulk text messages that we're sending, things like that. And then the other one is going to be more of a logistics staff member with all the other staff, setting up, tearing down, being a staff liaison to our tracks, just making sure that everything is running smoothly. So if there's an undergraduate that's interested, we actually have had 2 recommendations come in while we've been here from advisors. And so I'm just telling them, talk to your advisor, have them nominate you. And the 2 undergrads that were interested that I talked to earlier have already reached out and their advisors have nominated them. So it's super quick. Who are they? How do you know them? Describe them. Why do you think they'd be good? And then we're asking, does this person have an interest in this? Do they have an interest in working for staff? Or do you just think it's a good idea? That's okay. We just want to know, so when we reach out, that it doesn't catch them by surprise. So if you have any questions, my information is also on the website, and I am happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Tabitha. And then the last thing, and this is very important, is we wanted to put a focus with you guys on pending membership agreements. We have kind of a difficult time this fall trying to get all of our new members to sign their membership agreements before they went through scenes 3 and 4, even more scenes 1 and 2. We really want you guys and the president to put a focus on completing membership agreements before new members go through scenes 1 and 2. So if this kind of doesn't sound familiar, whenever a chapter gives out bids, they have 7 days from bid acceptance to put their class through scenes 1 and 2. During that time, the chapter should meet with them to discuss obligations and to also go over the membership agreement and hopefully have them sign it before scenes 1 and 2 happens. One way for you guys to always check, and I'm pretty sure all of your supervisors have brought this up to you guys before, is to log in to your My Alpha Sig portal. And when you're in here, you'll just click on your chapter designation and it'll take you to this portal. Too bad we don't have any new members right now, so it'll just look blank in the moment. But you'll come here to roster. You'll go to views because the first view is all the active undergraduates. And then you'll go to views, new members. So once new members are inputted, you'll start to see a list in here. It will show you the name, phone number, their hometown, email, and it'll show you if they've logged in. First and foremost, we need them to log into the portal. You'll see a green check by their name if they have logged in. And if they've signed their membership agreement, it'll pop in over here and it'll show the date that they signed their membership agreement if it has been signed. It'll be blank if they haven't signed it. And then once you members show up, there'll also be a little tab to the right, and it will allow you to send the My Alpha Sig portal invite to them if they haven't logged in yet. So that's a good way for you guys to check in every once in a while to see if this is being done, and also a good way to translate that back down to the president to make sure this is happening. We had probably about 15 new members that weren't official brothers going into winter break, which is against our policy. So we want to make sure that membership agreements are being signed before our members are being initiated fully, just per our policy and everything like that. So does anybody have any questions as far as pending membership agreements go?
Logan, I have a separate question on one of the topics you just discussed. So we did, in fact, pay our spring bill about 2 days ago in full, but the men brought something up, and I don't know if it was just our chapter or maybe global, but they shared that, hey, we got billed the entire amount for our fall new members, right? And so when we paid that payment, say a month or two ago, then ultimately you couldn't like put money ahead for say this bill. And so they felt like they were sort of a bit ahead, if that makes sense. And so now they're struggling. They're not thinking that they're going to have enough money to hold recruiting events here in the next week or two. So I don't know if maybe we're missing something, but again, it was brought to my attention.
Yeah. I mean, Jeremy, you can always add in too, but I think if I was the VP of Finance, I would like to pay my new member bill all in full if I have the capability to, because that's now, if I don't, that's now just another payment I have to think about going into the spring. If I pay that ahead of time, the rest of the dues that I bill out for the spring semester will just be for the spring semester, and I don't have to worry about that big February 15th payment coming along. I know your chapter has billed out the chapter before they went to winter break. So that was the hope, that dues would come through the door during winter break so that they would have money for things like recruitment. Was that not the case?
Yeah, I think, well, in Wake's scenario, I know every college is a little bit different, but their winter break is a bit longer, right? So they don't start here until later in January, and until they host like their first chapter meeting, it's kind of tough to get, kids to pay over winter break.
Yeah.
But I
we
mean,
actually see
again,
it as it's almost easy.
Yeah.
Keep going.
I was going to say, I mean, I think we're fine. I think they just, were curious, why they maybe thought that it was going to be billed as half. And on the old billing system, you could apply it to like various buckets, right? Whereas now on the portal, it just goes towards, I guess, the oldest invoice.
I'm going to jump in, Tony. I actually think we're all learning this new system still. So shout out to everyone that is coaching their groups, but there is a way you can choose the invoices that you want to pay. So I think moving forward, we need to just be cognizant of, hey, we're putting that whole bill on there in case a group wants to pay that early, because if Johnny gives them $500, they should put that towards the new member bill, or else the money's not going to be there in February. So there is a way to allocate payments on the payment side, and I'm happy to show that to whoever needs to, but just know that there is a way to do that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you,
Jeremy,
Jeremy.
I think you actually bring up a good point, which is that maybe the solution here potentially is to break out that new member invoice into two separate invoices, because our chapter kind of has a similar situation to Tony, which is that at the end of the day, for all of these chapters, it's a cash flow thing. If they're not getting those dollars in the door and they're having high cost initiatives like recruitment up front, and yes, guys coming back from Christmas break, ideally they're paying their dues right when they get there. But the reality of the situation at the chapter level is that's probably not what's actually happening. And so having them have a better understanding of where those cash flow needs lie, there's a big difference in something that's due on January 11th versus February 11th, in them being able to sort of allocate funds and make sure they're budgeting appropriately. Yes, I understand that paying up front is beneficial from headquarters side as far as getting as many payments in as possible, but ultimately from the chapter side, similar to the way that most people, I would say, operate kind of on a personal finance level, is like you structure your stuff to pay the bills when they're due, especially when they're operating in net break even kind of budgets most of the time.
Sure. And I agree with you, Tristan. And we are new to Salesforce, so we're going to find all these tricks. But I think one of the things that we're working on right now that saves us and you all time is that whenever a new member joins and is put into the system, there's an automatic invoice of $500. So it'll be a little bit more manual work for us if we break it up into 250 and 250, which we're not opposed to. But I also think that there becomes a coaching standpoint of, Jeremy at Michigan State, he could talk to the group and say, hey, I see that this is $500. I meet with the president every week. Next week, I'm going to tell the president we only have to pay half of it. So I think what it comes down to is we can do that, but a lot of what we're doing is to give you guys the education to be able to do that as well. So good point, Tristan. I actually might take your startup capabilities here and just have you come design something for me. But until then, we'll work on a process to see if we can do 250 and 250. But for the current time, let's focus on coaching with what we have.